Welcome to Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose. I'm your host, Gigi Blackshear. To be resilient means that you have the ability to bounce back no matter what life throws at you. Our guest, Mrs. Lakesha Burton, has an amazing story of resiliency. Please welcome to our show, Lakesha Burton. Lakesha, welcome.
Thank you, Gigi, for having me on the show today.
Lakesha, tell our audience, who is Lakesha Burton?
Who is Lakesha Burton? Well, I am a wife. I am a mother, a daughter, a sister. I am a survivor, and I just so happen to be in the profession of law enforcement, so I'm a police officer.
Okay. Would you share with our audience your survival story?
Well, my survival story started many years ago when I was 11 years old. My mom married a man that entered into our family, and at the age of 11 years old, he began to fondle me, which later led to it progressing to him taking my virginity.
Oh my!
For several years. 11 years old.
At 11. So tell me, Lakesha, did your mother know? Was she aware?
No, she wasn't aware. Nobody was aware of it.
Okay.
It was one of those things where, you trust your caregiver, somebody that you care about. And I think over the years, I know that it was so much fear. And I think the fear kept me from verbalizing what was going on. But certainly there were nonverbal actions that were displayed from me.
Yeah. So to have something that traumatic happen to you at 11, it had to be devastating because, like you said, this was someone that you trusted, someone that you cared for, that you loved. This was your father figure.
Right.
How did you manage that at 11? How did you?
Well, you're young. At 11 years old, I wasn't even thinking about, sex and kisses, really boys. I was still into playing with baby dolls. What happens is you kind of, when something happens like that, it kind of fast forwards your life and you're experiencing something that is not normal. So I was confused, I was hurt, I experienced a lot of negative emotions, and because it happened for a long period of time, about 4 years, my life changed drastically. And I suffered from depression, low self-esteem, every ugly negative emotion you can imagine. I suffered from that, and as a result, I became promiscuous and ended up becoming pregnant at the age of 14.
Let me ask you, during the time that you were suffering from the abuse, you were going to school, you were still living a normal life outside of the abuse. Were you not able to talk to a teacher, or was it just that fear that kept you quiet?
I think now in retrospect, I think that I was telling the best way I knew, and many times it was nonverbal and indirectly, and I just think that people really wasn't paying attention. And then when I became pregnant, I had a baby, people judge you and they think, oh, she's grown, she's got a baby now, so they have this stigma on you. So it was just hard for people to see those signs.
That is so amazing. When you look at from you said 4 years, And that's a period of development, a time when you really are maturing and trying to figure out life, and to have that kind of secret and to have to hold on with that and still go through life and put a smile on your face. That has to change you. It has to affect who you are and who you become.
Right.
So you said you went into promiscuity and everything that comes with that. What was the thing or the catalyst that allowed you to move forward, to move beyond that story?
Well, honestly, I thought about, all of the people that really God has placed in my life over the years, but the one common denominator was, of course, I had a baby at 15, and I've had experience with homelessness, drugs, alcohol, and I remember one night I was contemplating suicide. I was at the point where I did not want to live. I didn't care about myself. I didn't love myself. I felt like nobody loved me. And I remember I was at a crossroad, and somebody invited me to a revival here in Jacksonville, and I said, I don't have anything else to lose. And I remember going to the church that night, and I remember them playing this music, Jesus is Real by John P. Key, and I thought immediately, if Jesus is real, hey, all these things wouldn't have happened to me in my life. And I remember everybody was praying, and I was the only one looking around, and I remember I bowed my head and I said, Lord, this is your last time. I need you to show me a sign. And he clearly said, well, Keisha, what do you want? And I said, I want you to take this burden from me. And before I could finish my request, there was the Spirit of God. He removed this burden, this ugliness, this filth, this nastiness, this all those things I've been carrying. I tell people I have been just so unhappy and hurting for so long, to when God took that from me, it was so real, and I was a believer that night, and from that point my life has never been the same. And I told him, I said, if I continue feeling like this, I will serve you for the rest of my life, and I will not only serve you, but I will serve you through people, helping people that have been hurt. Yeah. So, and that's what I've dedicated my life to doing.
So, from molestation as a child, teenage pregnancy, drugs, promiscuity, alcohol, all of those things, what would you say to someone that's dealing with those things? What would you say to a person that finds himself right now in that circumstance, in that situation?
The first thing I would say is that it is not your fault. I carried that burden and that guilt for many, many years. And I know that it is not for us to carry. It is for those who victimize.
Yes.
But it's not for us to carry. And then the second thing I would say is that, when 30 years ago, when this man, violated me,
right,
I thought my life was over. But now I know that my life had just begun and kind of changed its course. Yes. So I would tell someone in this situation that the course of your life has changed, but it's not over, and God can still use you, and that you can overcome this.
Let me ask you, during that time, was there no support system in place for you? You said your mother. Was there no support, no help for you?
Well, I think that it's one of those things where people need to be educated. When you start having a child that you think is being rebellious and acting out, we try to label that as a bad kid. We're not even looking at, doing some fact finding, doing some investigative work to see what are some of these potential underlying causes are. And over years I've done a lot of research, so I've been learning myself. And what I see is that when somebody's been victimized, the whole family is impacted, and needs that help. Yeah,
and that abuse, it shows itself in many different ways. It's displayed in, even throughout the whole family. And lots of times we think one person is the victim, but in actuality, the whole family is being victimized in that circumstance or situation.
Absolutely.
Lakesha, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We're going to come back. We're going to come back and hear more from Lakesha in just a moment. Welcome back to our show. Lakesha, tell us, what are you doing now? What's going on with Lakesha now?
Well, thank you for asking. Actually, I know in the last segment you asked me, what were some of the things or people that kind of entered my life to help me catapult to where I am. And many years ago, I ran into a police officer who, at the time, invited me to the police athletic league. I was 15 years old, and I started going there to play, and I learned a lot of, different skills, if you will, teamwork, character, and everything. And I developed a love for basketball there, which later on afforded me the opportunity to get a full scholarship to play basketball out of college, to go to college. So I wanted to become a police officer because I wanted to put all child abusers in jail. That was my thought, But God had a different plan for me. So I have been advocating for victims of crime, especially young kids, and I've been serving with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for 18 years, and just providing service, meeting people where they are, treating people with dignity when they call that they've been victimized. But here over the last 2 years, I have been working as the executive director of the Police Athletic League, which is a 501c3 youth serving organization where we help kids. So, and my life has come full circle because that very place I stood in when I was 15 years old with my baby, now I run it, nobody but God. So, just advocating for young people right now.
Okay, and you said Police Athletic League.
Yes.
And we take for granted those places that young people can go and find somebody that cares about them. And because of the experiences that you've had, then you have great empathy. And you know the signs, you know what to look for, and you know that because you've experienced it, that you may be able to help some young person. So it looks like because of the things that you've gone through, God has strategically positioned you in order to use those hurtful things, those bad things, those negative things, and turn those things around for good, and allowed you to be able to speak into the lives of young people. And that is such a blessing. It's the things that we go through and survive. Those things he wants us to use in service to help others. And it's such a blessing that God has allowed you to go through what you went through, but yet survive and still bring something positive out of it. So we are so grateful that you are positioned where you are now, because there may be some young person that is in need of that kind of help, that you may be able to help. God may have you in that particular place for that particular reason to help some young person. Absolutely. So Lakesha, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been a blessing to me, and I know it's going to be a blessing to our viewers. So Lakesha, please tell us what's next for Lakesha Burton.
What's next? I have a lot of exciting things. Right now I'm working on my PhD degree, a Christian counseling degree, and I am working on a book.
Oh, that is
wonderful. I'm
wonderful.
super busy, and I'm thankful to have a very supportive husband to help me, but I'm constantly busy.
Do you have a title for your book?
Actually, it's a couple. Not yet.
Okay, but it's in progress.
Yes, it's in progress.
Okay, that is wonderful. Well, we will definitely be looking forward to that. I know it's going to be awesome. Lakesha, thank you so much for sharing your story. It has truly been a blessing to me, and I'm sure it's been a blessing to our guests.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Deborah Williams-Watson. We're back with Dr. Deborah Williams-Watson. Dr. Deborah, welcome back to our show.
Thank you for having me.
After listening to Lakesha's story, we know that child abuse is a horrible, horrible thing to happen to any child. Are there some resources that you could offer for someone that may be dealing with that? Lakesha talked about not being able to tell anybody and not having anyone to tell. Maybe there are some signs that we can look for as parents, as teachers or people in the neighborhood. Is there something that we're missing, that's something we should be looking for?
With every child has a personality. You know what are the specific traits of the child. When you see a significant change in their behavior, where you had a very rambunctious child